first off, AI doesn't really have many emotions, and selling is there's a lot of relation and emotional aspects to it. The sales team can't be replaced by AI; it can only support them. And with this, how can it support them? Well, we can be listening to what the customers are saying in unstructured data, but now you can just understand what are they saying, what are they posting, and take this and find patterns.
Today, we're going to dive into the dynamic intersection of marketing and sales with you, a guest who knows how to turn bold strategies into real revenue. Branden, you are a marketing executive with over 15 years of experience, and you're the founder of Marketing Exec, which is the newest position that you have on your LinkedIn profile. So I'm excited to talk about what you got going on in that space. Where you help businesses expand their reach through innovative and courageous marketing strategies. Your philosophy, as far as I could understand it, is that marketing isn't just about creativity. It's about blending art and science to craft campaigns that don't just capture attention, but drive real customer engagement and ultimately sales. Branden is also a thought leader in AI-driven marketing, consumer psychology. He's also getting his PhD, and he's bridging the long-standing divide between sales and marketing teams. A seasoned speaker, having been on more than 30 podcasts, and today he's bringing his expertise to the Sales Gravy audience. We're going to dig into how sales professionals can leverage marketing insights and why buyer behavior is shifting and what bold strategies actually move the needle. Branden, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Jeb. Very excited to be here and uh, very honored. Just thank you for the intro and look forward to our discussion today.
When I was doing my research, you talk a lot about the fusion of art and science in marketing. Um, as a leader, and I'm a leader in a marketing space, there is the tendency to drive either everything through data or to be completely intuition driven. And I think that that's because it's hard to meld these two together seamlessly without feeling rigid or getting out of place. And some leaders, like myself, are very intuition driven. And there are some leaders in my department who are really data driven. And sometimes we're at odds. So how do you start to bridge the gap, sort of fuse those together, and as a marketing leader, begin to look at your overall campaign strategy from a different lens?
Sure. Yeah. So I think everybody comes into a business, wanting to make money, wanting to make revenue, but then sometimes you have to have a strategy, you have to have a plan, you have to have something to go out. But also strategies and plans, they're not everything. I think Mike Tyson had a saying like, you have a strategy until you get hit in the face, and then what do you do, next? So you have to be able to adjust. Now, with some of that, then is like, okay, well then let's be guided by the data, but then you can be very misled by the data too in some ways, because maybe you start following the wrong indicators. A lot of times, because we're financially driven, some of the metrics that sales and finance within companies and different things want is not necessarily what marketing would think is the best metric. It may be more of a relationship metric or a something like that. But then ultimately, if you lose sight of what those metrics that sales and finance and everybody wants to, you could be creating a bunch of worthless. You're growing your likes, you're growing your followers, you're growing different engagement metrics and things. But if it's not ultimately converting, what's the point as well? So yeah, I do have a saying that marketing is an art and a science. Can't be done without data, but also data doesn't tell the whole story. Revenue does.
I like where you're heading with this, which is their sales and finance. Well, finance is about the bottom line, EBITDA, and sales is about revenue. So, what's the top line? How much can we bring in? What can we go out and get? And we, as a company, we help other companies with outbound, but there is an element to this inbound where marketing helps smooth out some of those revenue numbers because they're able to bring in people who are farther along the buyer's journey and have brand awareness and are already know what they're looking for. And when they hit the sales team, there should be a seamless transition into a real business conversation to solve problems. But what you illustrated is that marketing might have different metrics than the sales and finance team. And while sales and finance might need to pay attention to those metrics that the marketing team wants, if you're misaligned, when the rubber meets the road, ultimately marketing sends leads, lists, campaigns to the sales organization. And if they're misaligned, well, there's a lot of friction with those leaders and a lot of friction with the sales team. And look, I've been in a lot of bullpens and a lot of salespeople, and I've been a salesperson who goes, "Man, marketing sends me a bunch of shit leads, and I can't do anything with them. I'm better off just doing what I do on my own." And I know that from your end, you are working with organizations to help them move the ship in the right direction. What do those conversations sound like when you're trying to build the bridge of, okay, I think these metrics matter, and sales says these metrics mean something to us as well? How do you get them to come to the table and sit down and have a real conversation that leads to positive outcomes?
Yeah, so I think hopefully probably most of the listeners understand the consumer journey, and everybody's on a different point within that journey, and they've had different prior exposure to the brand or the product or the industry, whatever it may be, the category. And so you know there's a lot of links along the chain that ultimately lead to the same goal. So you're talking about inbound. Takes a very long time, but to work. But if you can move back high or higher up the funnel in the customer journey, then you're going to it is more profitable potentially to bring them down, potentially, because how much effort and money and time are you putting into moving them down? It may be worth just in a loyal industry, in an industry where there's a lot of loyalty and retention and repurchases and things. Maybe you want to really nurture them early on, and marketing has a big role. But in an industry where there's lack of loyalty, or it's more of an impulse buy, uh, you may be wasting your time, because you could be doing all this inbound stuff over here that then it's not going to create the conversion when it comes time. So I think what sales and marketing need to do is really work together to understand neither are wrong. Like each of these, all the indicators, all the metrics along the way, just aligning the linkages of the chain of how they move along, and understand where's the most profitable entry point for sales and marketing to go into, and then how do we work together at that point to move them along. And yeah, I mean, different businesses, who takes the lead on this is going to depend on the business model. Some, direct to consumer, packaged goods type things. Maybe marketing needs to brand and see that through, in some cases, all the way through the conversion. Whereas your more relationship business, or more B2B type things, sale marketing is just supporting the sales team and providing them the assets to overcome the objections that they're going to be encountering.
I think that this naturally leads us into where you have been at the forefront for several years now, which is AI and and AI's role in marketing. A lot of sales professionals hear the term, artificial intelligence, AI, and think of a replacement cycle where they're getting all of their things, all of their tasks automated, all of their job automated. And I think that you can provide some insight into some practical, really non-intimidating ways that sales teams can use AI and marketing teams can use AI to help them enter at the most profitable point in the customer journey.
Yeah. Well, first off, AI doesn't really have many emotions. So, and selling is obviously, there's a lot of relation and emotional aspects to it. So, the sales team can't be replaced by AI. It can only support them. And with this, how can it support them? Well, we can be listening to what the customers are saying in unstructured data, and in more. We typically always you would do surveys, things like that, and it'd be very structured. But now you can just more understand, what are they saying, what are they posting, what, and take this and find patterns, and find really where the pain points are. And then marketing can work on helping create assets and messaging and positioning that's going to enable overcoming those objections later. So I think AI its main role is really, finding taking we all have more data than we think. Actually, I did an interview one time with an executive at MasterCard, and they said they have a saying in MasterCard: if MasterCard only knew what MasterCard knew, meaning they have all this data everywhere across the world, but they haven't, prior to AI, structured it in a way where they're pulling out the main patterns that they can leverage to improve on.
I think that the MasterCard example is writ large true for most organizations. I know it's true for my own process. I have had, 100,000, that's an exaggeration. I love exaggerations, but 100,000 sales conversations, right? And all of those sales conversations were recorded in Zoom, or they were in some part of our cloud system, but we've never gone back and really used that data. It's just sitting somewhere, it gets deleted. And I think as a sales professional, what you're outlining is that you have all of this data that marketing actually needs, but they're never getting it because they're not having enough conversations with real people often enough to have that knowledge. And as a salesperson, the sales professional typically goes to marketing and I heard this, I heard this, I heard this, and then marketing takes that in. But we're all we all have recency bias. So the last sales conversation that I had is going to inform what I tell the marketing team. So how can say a mid-sized business, a small business, if you're a CEO, a chief revenue officer, and a chief marketing officer, you're looking at your entire sales and marketing system, the customer journey. You have all of these conversations. How have you seen different organizations start to pull this data out of their sales organization, out of their marketing organization, and really start to organize it in a way that drives revenue?
Yeah, well, I think one of the more modern, innovative ways is creating a position that does oversee and merge the two departments together. So I had a talk with, so Audible, Amazon subsidiary, but small for Amazon, but still big for
Right.
what a lot of
Small for
people would think.
Amazon is bigger than.
Yeah, they're both their sales and marketing are run by actually, well, the leader of that, she's got two positions: chief financial officer and chief growth officer. So she oversees both of the, and then marketing and sales are falling under these. And so but the CRO type thing is going to be able to merge it together. And I'd like to give one example of where a position I held. So I was working for a real estate company, and I was overseeing the demand and lead generation, and then we would send the leads into a call center. They would convert into in-person appointments, and then we would send out the real estate agents to take those appointments and convert them. Now, this was a very interesting thing because neither of the metric you talked about, the shitty marketing leads. So I agree that like a lead doesn't mean anything. Like how much does it cost per conversion of bucket of leads? And for us, it was the appointment cost. So I could send the call center one lead, 100 leads, or 1,000 leads for $1,000, whatever that is, 100,000. It's how many out of that each bucket of leads did the call center be able to convert into an in-person appointment. Now that was the equalizer, because now there's a whole new metric setting up. Now, then how does your sales team go out and convert? So it was kind of like the marketing was coming up to here, the sales team was taking it from here, but the call center was that equalizer where when they set the appointment, now neither marketing metric here or sales metric here brought the two together. It was the cost per appointment up here.
It makes sense to have a middle ground where things start to equal out, and you can really look at the data and use intuition effectively without having arguments back and forth between marketing and sales. Well, marketing says, well, sales just doesn't set any appointments because they don't know how to actually call people, and that's what they need to hire sales gravy because they don't know what to say on the phone. And you have this call center it's the control, right? So it's the easiest place to put a middle ground on this. And I like the position too, as well as for aggregating data. Someone who's looking at both of these pictures and helping both of these organizations draw the same conclusions where it makes sense. And this is where alignment comes in. So we've talked about a little bit about alignment. You've illustrated some ways that sales and marketing can be aligned, but this is all theoretical until it starts to happen. What are some of those pitfalls that that organizations, especially as a growing organization, need to pay attention to in order to make sure that down the road they're not dealing with big mechanical issues and they're more tweaking the process of the ship.
Yeah, well, I think there's two different things. One is just like you said that sales is concerned with the top line. Well, there's a lot of marketing expenses that may come into handing off that lead. So you need to make sure that the cost to both generate the lead and to provide whatever product or service is not going to create a net loss of what that revenue is.
Mm,
So you understand. So that's where on having this kind of central, whether it's a CRO, I was using the example of the call center equalizing, whatever it may be, though, you're going to know based on what then the final sale is, how much you can invest back here in between the top and bottom line to get things in a profitable way. So um, that's one piece. Yeah, I think either understanding your fineness on how well funded you are, like to are you going to experience a bit of loss to eventually become profitable, or are you going to do you need to grow through profit? So understanding your ultimate cash flow and financing situation will dictate the strategy approach. Now there's also one more thing though, and we started this off about inbound and outbound. And so on it's never clear to me and this depends on cash flow, it depends on the business strategy, that which one comes first? You could say you need to have all this kind of inbound stuff to help convert people once you bring them in. Um, and then once you build it out, you go out and you start to attract people to you. But I like to do it a little bit in reverse, where we're doing outbound first, trying to catch at that lowest level of the customer journey and convert them through, and then keep growing the funnel upward. Because if you work on this like this long term approach, if you don't have these processes refined down here, then you've wasted. Even when you do capture them here and you bring them down, you're going to lose them at some point. So I like to work from the conversion backwards. And yes, of course, the further back you can go, great. But start at conversion. So that this is very pro sales then, and then work backwards.
Branden, I knew I liked you. Outbound first. No, it makes sense because if you are going outbound, that's the hardest way to bring in appointments. It's the hardest way to bring in customers. However, when you start doing it well, you understand you understand your process, how to run it well. You also get them into the sales funnel more easily over time, and you're also figuring out what kinds of customers ultimately are actually interested in what you provide, your products, your services, and then marketing can inform themselves from the sales process and build out an inbound funnel that matches the outbound, so in such a way that it really accelerates the process. And this is where I think the fun stuff, the fun conversation starts. Is marketing in your vision is not a safe play. There's a place for taking risks and going out and running campaigns from a marketing perspective that just bring in an audience that you're taking a big swing and you're hoping, but when it works, it really works. So what are some examples of this that you've seen or that you've employed that help a marketing team get a little bit outside the box and really drive revenue?
Yeah. So there's a model called the elaboration likelihood model, and with that, you need to get people to really think about your product or service in order to change their attitude towards your product or service or brand. And so, number one, in that there's two kinds of like process. You see an ad or you consume content, and there's a more central, highly focused processing, and there's a more peripheral kind of you're bombarded with things, and you see it subconsciously, but you're not really paying a lot of attention to it. To be able to really shift the attitude of consumers, you have to, number one, catch their attention. You have to hold their attention, and you have to make them think through, just think whatever that is. You have to make them think deeply because that deep thinking is what's going to change their attitude. So part of this is creating. Uh, you always have to kind of keep your message fresh of sorts and iterative and one of the newest ways is through AI, the hyper personalization.
Mm,
And so through hyper personalization, through ultimately, if you and I can both be marketed to with the same product, but we're receiving two separate ads or and two separate messages based on all the data points that we've indicated, where the patterns that we're seeing from you versus the behavioral and passion patterns that I'm projecting, we can have two different messages, but ultimately end at the same place. And salespeople know this because like when you're building the relationships, you don't talk to the two different people the same way. Now we've always had the segmenting and targeting and positioning and marketing as well, but now it's just becoming much more one to one, and that's enabling to keep things relevant and to keep things adjusting based on the right message at the right time in the right place for the current situation the person's going through. Because the way I'm feeling as a customer today, or what I'm dealing with today, is not the same as I was dealing with an hour ago, let alone yesterday. So that's part of, I think, one of the ways we can break through is really trying to ensure preciseness and relevance, to which then enable people to think deeply on the message and can change their attitude.
yeah, the thinking deeply, right? So the capacity to change someone's behavior in terms of clicking on that link or diving into the ebook or getting the demo or engaging with the sales team is not oh, I'm interested in that, click. There's a segment of that, but what you're telling us is that the hyper personalization, what sales teams have always known, is that I'm speaking your language and it causes you to stop and and it challenges either your position. You say, I am dealing with this challenge, how I don't know how to solve this, or I think that is a great way to solve this, I have been thinking about these kinds of things, or I haven't been thinking about these things at all, maybe I should. And that is where your study of behavior psychology starts to play into this. And from both marketing and sales, I mean, I think both departments can really learn from this. How people make purchasing decisions is really important to understand. So, what's one insight from your research that sales professionals and marketing professionals aren't leveraging enough? And how can they use it to close more deals and bring in more revenue?
Well, I would pay a lot of attention on the sequence of how you present information, and test a little bit of it, record a little bit of it, and understand that when you present uh, a a message, so like let's say you present a if we're talking call center, you have call, email, and text. Let's
Right,
say
right,
now, let's say you have 24 touch points or something with the person. There's many combinations of call, email, and text. It could be call, email, text.
right.
It's work these, find that perfect mix. Now, for marketing, it may be video, audio, image, and text that you're in your different contents displaying. And your sales relationships too, it could be the framing and different things, but really paying attention to the way you sequence information out, or you order the order of presentation to the customer. So yeah, I mean, I would say that's one key way of that you could easily find some improvements to make, but you have to record it, and AI can help you find those patterns of what's working.
What's going on from a consumer or from the prospect side, right? So
Yeah.
if we're thinking about it from not the sales side, not the marketing side, but we're actually stepping into the shoes of the thing that we do every single day. We get a million emails, we get a million text messages, people are calling us all day long. What is the psychology that's happening from the prospect side that we need to be paying attention to?
So there's two things. One, what grabs attention is not necessarily what's in. So like the wrapper or the package outside the box is not what's inside the box. So you may have to grab attention, and then that same strategy or approach is not what needs to be on the inside when people start thinking deeply. Uh, that's one thing. But the other thing is there's a lot of carryover and spillover that's happening. So there's a concept of like excitation theory. So like a lot of action at first, a video, for example, and it captures your attention, and then that kind of it doesn't just that attention doesn't end when that video ends. When you're going over to then the text to read about it, post, you may retain some of that excitement from the video back over here.
That's really interesting.
So you have to think about each and every touch point you have has a different carryover effect. How long that effect lasts, whether it's seconds, minutes, days, weeks, and how those add together too.
Or diminish over time. I mean, you can do the
Or
same
diminish.
thing. I assume it's a correlated effect, right? If you are sending bad messages, if you have a bad campaign on the marketing side, or if you have a bad sequence on the sales side, you are losing people cumulatively over time until eventually they stop paying attention. But the opposite is true. If you are providing value, if you give a video, if you shoot video messages, I've been training video messages for years, Branden. It's incredible. I can't believe that people aren't using it more. But on the marketing side as well, for me, as a marketer, I didn't realize this, but you're absolutely right. If I put a video in, people tend to actually reply to my marketing emails that I didn't send. It was sort of an automated thing, but there was a video, then there was text. They reply to that a lot more frequently than any other part of my marketing campaign. And I love that. They're paying attention more to the next thing because of what you sent was more valuable. And that can have cumulative effect into real revenue, real relationships, real partnerships. And that's really cool. I didn't realize that as an armchair psychologist. That makes a lot of sense.
Well, and here's an example. Think about like when you turn on the news for the night. They give you a quick within, or I mean, yeah, it's like a quick 30 seconds of the rundown of the main stories. Then they dive into it, but then you know kind of what's coming. It's like your intro basically, which then carries over, and you know you're going to stay focused because you know what's still coming. That there's more coming. That's a bit different of an angle of like the excitement, but it is about still creating something that carries over to later. Yes.
Branden, I think that's an actionable thing people need to take away immediately, both in their own lives and in their sales process and in their sequences and in their marketing campaigns. That's an incredible insight. I think you should go back and listen to this actually for maybe 2 or 3 times just to make sure you get that down. Branden, we've got you here on the Sales Guru podcast. Where can people go find you, learn more from you, and be able to utilize your knowledge to better their business and grow to where they want to be?
Yeah, so you can find me at marketingexec.us. We have a system where we work with clients on an hourly basis. It's as much or as little as you need. So just schedule a call. We'll do a quick rundown to see if there may be some strategies we can help you with. What we really do is help companies expand through the US. So we have a lot of international clients that are looking to come into the US, and we kind of bridge that cultural gap. Vice versa, if it's a very small local company that's looking to expand throughout all the states, we can go, either way. You can find me on LinkedIn as well. Branden Cobb. Notice it's with an E, Branden. And then one more thing I just want to leave you with, when you talked about how the messages can go downward too. That's right. So there's certainly this wear out effect that a lot of times, like the perception of consumers is built within the first 3 impressions, and after those 3 impressions, you're just further emphasizing or taking them in whatever perception direction they've already made. A lot of times, not always. So what that would mean, I mean, you can break that if you really make them think deeply, but what that would mean is if they're in favor of you, yeah, more and more impressions. If they're not in favor of you, you're just going to piss them off, more and more and more. So I appreciate the chance to chat about some of this. And yeah, I hope your listeners found value.
I think they will. Branden, thank you so much for being here on the Sales Guru podcast, and we'll catch y'all next time.
Hey, I'm doing a happy dance because you watched this video. Make sure that you click like and subscribe so that you never miss one of our amazing sales training videos.